So ultimately you defend the indefensible, which is a book that they imposed upon you, saying things that you don't necessarily agree with at all. In fact, the opposite of what you believe in a lot of cases. But you got the damn thing done. Now you're graduated. Means you can go on the job market. To do what? In an area like this, not much you're going to do except try to get in a position where you can teach other people what you think the truth is. Problem with that. You're going to be hired on as a junior faculty member, which means you've got 6 years to write another damn book that they're going to agree with and write a few reviews and journal articles that will be approved by the right journals and therefore published. You've got to have the stack of credentials so that possibly at the end of that 6-year period of time, you can get tenure, which means they can't just summarily fire you because, well, you're not collegial. I mean, you're not like them. You don't act like them. You got to try to be socialized, act like them too. Go to the right little mixers and socials and tea parties and rub shoulders with the provost and other thugs. Most institutions it is, because that's to keep the faculty in line in case they were in any danger of ever getting out of line in the first place, and the other administrators who are basically political hobnobbers and fundraisers. But you need to, Why do you need to? Because you've got all this time invested, you've compromised stuff, and you feel really bad about it, and there's got to be some sort of payoff, so you're now invested in this position, and besides, you don't have to punch a time clock usually, and it's better than a lot of jobs you could have and doesn't pay anything, but it might someday. But first you got to get tenure. Well, you get the tenure if you compromise enough, you check all the boxes, you might jump through all of the hoops, you get tenure, and you find out, okay, now I'm assured of the job. They consider me reliable in transmitting what it was I was trying to not transmit in the first place. I was trying to challenge it, engage it critically, come out with a more truthful rendering of reality, or at least an alternative for consideration, and they've got me in a position now where they consider me reliable to transmit the same stuff that I was in opposition to in the first place. And I've got an indefinite period in front of me now before they're going to give me a promotion to full. I've got to do all these things, check all these boxes again, jump through all of these hoops in order to get to where I might actually have a living wage out of this. This is after 6 years on top of the, what was it, 21? 27, now you got tenure. Let's say you're a whiz kid. Okay, within another 6 years, you make full. That's 34 years. Now I'm in a position where I can finally, I can't remember what it was. And oh hell, I'm going to retire. It's done. You see how this treadmill works. That's not what education is about. It's not what a college is supposed to be about. College is not a trade school for starters. University certainly is not. They talk about the university system and how you check the boxes and punch through and get into the university. And universities come up in, well, universities came up in Baghdad long time ago, came up in Egypt a long time ago. You're not supposed to talk about that, and we won't, because it starts to get complicated, and I've got a finite period of time. Okay, the university, insofar as America claims to have them, is supposedly based on the German model. First one of those was Humboldt University. Understand what the university is. It's entirely about critical engagement, critical thought. The core of a university is a philosophy faculty. How many of you have ever had to take a course in philosophy? Okay. Yeah, 2. Here's the deal. I taught a lead institution. Top 20 research institution. I had undergrads coming through my courses that were philosophy majors that had never heard of Hegel, for example. That's a fairly major European philosopher. Never mind that they heard of non-Europeans. Don't ask them about Avicenna or people like that, from whom Thomas Aquinas learned everything he knew about theology and philosophy, rewrote it, put it out under his own name after turning it inside out or reversing the polarity, but it was the same stuff, the same points, same arguments, just inverted. You don't hear about any of that because that's not really philosophy. You take an intro to philosophy course, okay, so that you can say you're actually educated in the life of the mind. Oh yeah, ideas. That can be symbolically still the core, even though functionally, structurally, it's not the core of a U.S. institution. It never has been. All right, you start with the Greeks and you end up with, in a really good, well, they might even at this point, see, I've been talking about this for a long time. I used to say Sartre and the French existentialist. You know, that's the glamour stuff at the end. But from start to finish, you need sunglasses when you're looking at the pictures of the people who qualify as philosophers in an intro to philosophy course. They're from start to finish white, even when some of them weren't. You go back to the Greeks, have a look at a book called Black Athena, and you figure out that a whole lot of supposedly Greek philosophy was coming out of the Levant and was coming out of Egypt. And Egypt was a mixed racial society, so you had black Greeks. You had Black Athena, as the title of the book goes. But that's not how you look at it. You don't get taught about Abyssinia Averroes. You don't get taught any of that. So much for the core of the institution. But around the faculty of philosophy, which is the key, you arrange the natural sciences and arrange what, kind of euphemistically, they can come to call the social sciences. Note, this is theoretical science. This is theoretical mathematics. This is not applications. You're not being taught in a university in a German model to be an accountant. You're not being taught to be an engineer. You're not, for the most part, being taught to be a medical doctor. You're being taught how to critically engage reality and interpret it in such a way it's consistent with the national zeitgeist, whatever that might be. And for Germany, it was fairly clear. You want to learn how to be an engineer, a form of applied science and math? Great. Society needs lots of engineers. Here's a Polytechnical Institute over here. That's where you belong, not in a university. Oh, you want to do agriculture? I mean, half the universities in this country were ag schools when they started. No. We got technical institutes for that. We got trade schools and training schools. So you learn these things. If that's your what you want to establish as a vocation, how you want to contribute socially, great. There's no disparagement in that. But you don't conflate one thing with the other. Colleges are a preparatory ground. You got the rudimentary skills in terms of method, analytical approaches, and so forth at the undergraduate level in the colleges, and then went to the university. Switch, say, graduate school would be the only thing actually qualified to be a university. But these are words signifying different stations.